Now for our story. It was a clear, sunny day. Randy Lane was busy at the woodpile in back of his mother's neat farmhouse. The young man swung the axe energetically, attacking the job as if his life depended on getting the wood box full in the next half hour. There was a sort of desperate concentration about him, which his mother noted as she came toward him around the corner of the house.
Randy!
Oh, hi, Mom.
Dear, you mustn't take your work so seriously. You wear yourself out.
Yeah, just trouble. No matter how hard I go at a job, I never seem to make a dent in my energy. There always seems to be too much left over.
Well, I should think that's a good thing. You're a healthy young animal. You're supposed to have a lot of energy.
Yeah, but I can't use it up, Mom. I never have enough to do.
Well, Randy, if you and Lefty are going to pitch in and fix up his house for Peggy and Bill, that ought to keep you busy for a while.
Yeah, we're going to start papering the living room tomorrow.
I think Lefty showed very good taste in choosing the design, don't you?
Oh, it's okay, I guess, Mom. Anyway, I think Peggy will like it. Lefty has a knack of knowing the sort of thing she goes for.
He certainly has.
You know, I'm not entirely sold on this idea of his. I kind of think the kids might prefer having their own place in town, the one they choose. It would be awful if Peggy turned out to be disappointed and didn't want to admit it for fear of hurting the guy's feelings.
Well, Randy, if Lefty has his heart set on this scheme of his, she wouldn't hurt him for the world.
He's like a little kid, isn't he?
Mm-hmm.
The real reason he sold himself the idea of fixing up his place for them was that he can't stand the thought of Peggy's moving away from the farm, even if she only goes to the other side of town.
I know. He wants to have her right here where he can look after her.
Oh, well. Sooner or later, they'll be able to build a place of their own. This will probably work out fairly well as a temporary deal.
That's the way I look at it, Randy. But we'll all have to make it our business not to intrude, so they can have their privacy.
That's right, Mom. I must say, if I were Bill, I'd consider myself a very lucky guy.
Mm-hmm. I know. Peggy will make him very happy.
I was also thinking he's to be congratulated for choosing you as a mother-in-law, so to speak.
I'm afraid that wasn't the first thing Bill had in mind.
I don't know, Mom. Sometimes I think a fellow wouldn't be far wrong if he chose the mother-in-law first before he decided on the girl. I've seen some very sad cases of in-law trouble.
Well, that's because mothers sometimes hate to relinquish what they consider their rights, so far as their offsprings are concerned. They make a bad mistake trying to live solely through their children.
They sure do. This business of parenthood is a strange thing anyway. Now look at Lefty. He'd have made a wonderful father. And here he is, a dyed-in-the-wool bachelor. On the other hand, a guy like Ben Calvert would have been better off not to have had a child. At least it would have been a lot better for the child.
Well, Randy, it seems to me that parenthood is an attitude, a way of thinking rather than an accident of birth. Now, Peggy's only my niece, but I'm sure I couldn't feel closer to her if she were my daughter. And, as you say, it's the same with Lefty.
Mm-hmm. It's always been like that, hasn't it, Mom?
Mm.
Ever since Lefty first turned up here, when Peggy was a little kid. He's always been crazy about her.
Yes. I've often told him he should have married and had a family of his own. Lefty has such a wealth of love, a family feeling.
Yeah. I've often wondered just how he happened to drift here to Wakefield. Of all places. You know, there he was in Chicago, evidently a pretty successful newspaper man. Then suddenly to throw the whole thing over, turn into a hobo practically. It takes some big upset as a rule to make a man do that.
Lefty must have had a great disappointment in his life somewhere. It comes out sometimes in a bitterness he has toward women. I mean, toward a certain kind of woman.
I know. Yeah. Yep, some gal probably took him for an awful ride, and he's never gotten over it. Made him wary about attempting to have a personal life of his own.
That's why he was able to merge himself in our family life so completely. He felt safe.
Mm. That's funny, Mom. The little accidents which form a person's life pattern. If Lefty hadn't just happened to come to Wakefield, well, think how different his life would have been. And ours, too.
Sometimes Sometimes I wonder if it is accidental, Randy. Perhaps the life patterns people make for themselves stem from another, larger plan.
Well, maybe you're right, Mom. So far, I can't see any design in my own life. Can't see any design at all.
Well, you're still young, Randy. You're just getting started.
Sure, but the trouble is I can't make up my mind what to start.
No, you mustn't be impatient, dear. There's plenty of time for you to decide.
I don't know about that, Mom. The way things go, it takes a guy a long time to work himself into a position where he makes a fair living. Seems to me I ought to get rolling. Someday I'll probably get married, and... Well, the way things are now, I couldn't possibly support a wife.
Randy,
Yeah, Mom? I have a feeling this is going to be a leading question.
it is. If you feel I'm prying, you needn't answer.
Oh, Mom. There's nothing in the world you haven't a right to ask me. And you can depend on it that you'll always get a straight answer. Now, what do you want to know?
I was wondering if there's any particular girl, one you might consider marrying.
Oh, I should say there isn't. If there were, I'd have told you the minute I was sure. I'd never be able to keep it to myself if I fell in love. Not from you, anyway.
I see. Son, I went over to see Dr. Larrabee this afternoon, as you know.
Oh, say, that's right. I meant to ask you what it was all about.
We had a long conversation, Randy, about Kitt and how she's changed this last week or two.
Did you see her, Mom?
No, I didn't.
Oh, that's too bad. I wanted you to see for yourself what a big difference there is in her. Before Kitt became ill, from what I knew of her, I never would have believed she was capable of being the way she is now. But it must have been there underneath all the time.
I wonder if you understand just why Kitt has changed so much.
Well, because she's gotten over her fear of Ben to a great extent. I think she finally realized she's free of him, that he can't harm her anymore.
That's part of it. But from what the doctor said, Randy, there's something else which is equally important to Kitt just now.
What's that, Mom?
Her love for you.
Huh? Oh, no, Mom, you're all wrong. Kitt's not in love with me.
Dr. Larrabee says she is.
Yeah? But I don't get it. She can't be. Dependent on me, yes. You can understand why.
The doctor was very concerned, Randy. That's why he wanted to talk it over. You see, dear, it puts a great responsibility on your shoulders. If Kitt becomes wrapped up in you, as she appears to be, her feeling wouldn't necessarily change after she were well again.
No, but...
It's true, her present dependence on you is partly the result of her childish little girl devotion. But remember, Kitt's a highly emotional girl. She always has been. And now her feeling seems to have developed into an adult love.
Gosh, Mom, I don't know what to say. The idea that Kitt might... Well, Mom, it never entered my head.
Oh, I know, Randy. Your whole idea was simply to help her get well.
That's right.
Nevertheless, I'd like you to think over what the doctor said. Think it over very carefully before you decide what to do.
Decide? Decide what, Mom?
Whether you want to take the chance of continuing to see her or not. Dr. Larrabee believes she'll probably get well anyway from now on. But if you continue to see her, you may find yourself involved in a very complex situation. It's something you'll have to be very sure about, Randy, before you go ahead.
Mary Lane asked herself whether Randy realized what his feelings were toward Ben Calvert's daughter. It was true he thought of himself as nothing more than a protector, a friend to his childhood playmate. But now the kid was so much better, now that her beauty had returned, he was far less a patient and far more of a woman. Perhaps Aunt Mary thought Randy's own feelings had changed toward the girl without his understanding what had happened. But whether they had or not, he had a very important decision to make.